Welcome to our hotel, Mr. Hausman.
Thanks so much. I'm here to celebrate Festivus. I see you guys are too. That's quite the pole you have there.
Why, thank you. We celebrate all major December holidays at this hotel.
Oh, okay.
We're accepting donations for the Human Fund. It's for people. Will you be joining us for the feats of strength in our main ballroom at 9 p.m.?
No, but I suspect from the looks of this place, I'll be airing my grievances with you at the end of my stay.
Do you live, eat, and sleep the hotel industry? Looking to brush up on your game? You've come to the right place. Welcome to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman.
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the No Vacancy podcast. I, of course, am Glenn Hausman, your host here for the next hour or so. And gosh, I love having you folks listen in, mostly because it gives me an opportunity to talk and have people listen, which is very unmuch like my life, where I just do a lot of talking and nobody's listening to me. But I got one dude who I know is going to listen to every word I say here with bated breath. We got, once again, Mr. Bruce Ford, SVP of Lodging Econometrics. How are you, sir?
Well, Glenn, you pay me well, so I listen to you, okay? And the last check bounced, so we have a problem.
Oops. Well, you know, that probably has to do with the fact that I'm sitting out here isolated on my own, dealing with all of these clients that pay on their time schedule. So when they pay me, I'll make sure I forget to pay you again and again and again. So don't worry about that.
Well, welcome.
Bruce.
Welcome to being a small business, Glenn. 1 year later, the success of Rouse Media is really quite astounding. Congratulations on all of your success so far this year.
Well, thank you so much. You know, knock on wood, this has been the greatest, most interesting year I've had so far out here, and it's been just a great honor to get out there and work with a lot of these companies behind the scenes. For those of you that are listening to this podcast and have no idea what else I do in the universe, I work behind the scenes with a lot of companies developing content, their strategy for how to approach the hospitality industry, that sort of stuff, as well as the more visual things that you can see me when I'm speaking at events around the country and hosting this podcast here that you're listening to right now. So overall, Bruce, it's been a really heady year, and it's just been wonderful to see that I've been accepted so much. I still feel like that little kid on the playground that's getting picked second to last for all of the sports activities like kickball and softball and all of that kind of stuff. You know, thank God there was that one kid who got picked last after me, though.
Well, I think that you probably noticed that there are plenty of people that waited for you to become publicly available because you've worked for somebody for so many years of your life, and now you're piecing together a few different types of things that gives you some availability to explore those opportunities, and that can be really exciting on both sides of the table. And I know quite a few of your clients, and I tell you they all have bright, shining star things to say about you. So I mean what I say.
Well, that's really nice of you to say, and I'm happy to say that I will be continuing as editor-at-large with hotel management in this coming year. And in 2017, expect to see a lot more fun stuff that I'm going to be doing. Bruce, hopefully I'm going to get my act together and start putting out videos every week, doing more stuff on Facebook Live and some of the other streaming sites, and really trying to get my point of view out there in the news to help educate road warriors, industry insiders, and, you know, pretty much anyone that'll listen and watch me out there.
Well, we could, and as I've told you, we could talk about how much travel has evolved in our own careers as executives in the hospitality industry, and that would be fun enough, and talk about a new topic every 4 or 5 days, because it continues to change. I mean, from just the theory of how you're awarded elite status to the theory of the value of your points that you accumulate to how you get those points and what you do with them and what's the best way to use these cards versus those cards, and all of that kind of stuff is can be all consuming, and that doesn't even really scratch the surface of many things that you've written about for so many years as it becomes to real estate and branding and construction and all those types of things. It's a whole other consumer side to the coin, and I enjoy what you really strive to do, which is to be a foot in both camps. I think that adds a unique perspective to many of your clients, and it adds a unique perspective to me, because I enjoy being a frequent traveler in addition to a participant in the hotel real estate industry, and I think you do too.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I totally love it. It's a super duper passion of mine, that's for sure. And, let me pause here and wish everybody a Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, and all of the other gajillion holidays that are happening right now in this time period. I'm not one of those folks that get all, doesn't get my panties in a bunch with whether or not you say Merry Christmas, Happy Holidays, or any of that kind of stuff. I just think that it's a great time of year for everybody to celebrate our togetherness. And with all the divisiveness I think we've seen here in the United States over the last year, this is really a great time for us, Bruce, to take a deep breath and remember that interpersonal relationships are what matter, and that it's our opportunity now to connect again with those people, both close to us and maybe some folks that we've become a little bit estranged to over this last political cycle.
Well, I think that's what social media is built on, and every year we go through more social media platforms and offerings, we find out that it is a medium that helps us connect both personally with friends that we know, as well as personally/professionally with people that we'd like to associate with, who we also work in industry with, and then being able to separate that from just really industry colleagues that we want to interact with at the industry level. And trying to define all three of those boxes is one of those things that's a constant move, but I would tell you probably more than ever, I have, more friends on Facebook that are industry colleagues and friends than I ever have before.
And that's really a great thing to see. I love being able to keep in touch with people throughout the year. And, I'm finding social media is a great tool for me to be able to, when I do catch up with somebody face to face and say, hey, it was great to see your kid make that achievement, or congratulations on that thing that you specifically did, or that project that you worked on. I feel like I get to, know people a lot more intimately, even though we don't have as much FaceTime with each other. And I think that's really the pure joy of social media.
So, yeah, with my grandchildren, Glenn, I get to see friends, and they're like, I've been following you on Facebook.
Right.
I'm like, oh, that's great. But I got to have like 2 or 3 pictures that they haven't seen yet. So I have to keep like the private BF files.
Yep.
So that, you can actually share something they haven't seen. And I haven't quite gotten my wife to that level of understanding yet, but at this point I still do it, and it's just kind of to keep a few for, when I see those people that I wouldn't say they stalk me, but I am maybe not the most interesting man in the world, but people do enjoy to follow my travels all over the world, wherever it is.
Well, I think you're definitely at least the second or third most interesting man in the world. And that only comes behind the 2 most interesting men that have played the most interesting man in those beer commercials. After that, it's all
And how do you
BF.
feel about the replacement most interesting man? I think I think one of the requirements was he had to have good hair, because the last guy did. And, he's definitely got good hair.
Well, I'll tell you, Bruce, it's a little bit difficult for me to adjust to, because you can't just replace a character without anybody noticing. Original Darren compared to new Darren from Bewitched aside. Those I didn't even realize until I was much older. But for enjoying those commercials so much and liking that older gentleman in the role, I'm not used to the new guy yet, so I'm not sure that I can make an accurate statement about the quality of his work out there.
Stay thirsty, my friend.
Yes, I will. Speaking of staying thirsty, it is the holiday season, and we're going to be taking a little time off. Next week, I'm not going to be doing an original show, but I am going to be doing a lost show from the archives, which will be really interesting. It's a show about the history of the Golden Steer Steakhouse, which is in Las Vegas, the oldest steakhouse in Las Vegas. And you, Bruce Ford, make a surprise appearance on that particular show, so we'll get to hear from you next week as well.
I do recall that one. That was an excellent experience with a few of our very good friends who adorned us with some of their Las Vegas history. That was really quite an event. I do recall participating there, and during the holiday time, I begin to reflect, Glenn, and I started to reflect yesterday, and I said, that yesterday was officially 1 month until we have President-elect Trump taking the White House. And I've had more than my share of conversations about effects and in terms of what is happening in the industry today as a result of him winning the nomination, what will happen, and how do I personally feel about it, okay?
Yeah.
And so, some of those aspects, I mean, I look at one thing that's obviously very easy to track that opens on a daily basis and closes on a daily basis is the Dow Jones average.
Yeah, and that
which
has been soaring.
run straight up more than 1,000 points. And it actually, as we record this today, is sitting on the precipice of 20,000, which it has never hit before.
I think that it's also gone up 1,000 points quicker than at any other time in history as well, which is, to stick with the theme of this election cycle, which is completely opposite of what all the prognosticators were predicting. I'm starting to think that anyone making predictions is just going to be completely wrong, and except you, Bruce Ford, because I know it's going to be 20,000 points today, which is 2 days before this show is released. We're recording this on the 21st. So you thinking it's going to go today as well?
Well, it's right there in the window, Glenn. It's awfully darn close, and it would be hard to believe that it at least isn't going to happen before the end of the year. And when I say that, it did trade over 20,000, but it didn't close over 20,000. So I would fully expect that we'll have a closing day over 20,000 before the end of the year, and it'll certainly trade in that window sooner rather than later. But many of the prognosticators, and of course they all come from really kind of different angles, if you will, but throughout the spring and summer, many people were working in the hotel industry were thinking that the hotel industry had peaked and that valuations for hotel companies had peaked, and we should expect a downward slide. And in fact, prior to the president-elect getting nominated, there were many sell signs on a lot of stocks, or hold in the hotel industry on stocks. And that would be a natural progression because we had a lot of confluence of statistics, and it wasn't a rash reaction because we have had a really unprecedented run of operating performance improvement, which is still continuing. Okay, the November statistics are out, and they're up. And we've had another month of operating performance improvement on all three indices. And it was actually, if I've got this right, the highest RevPAR monthly growth since early 2015.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah, so that means we're all still traveling. We're all still paying for hotel rooms. We're all still getting in airplanes. And we're still doing it at record rates. So much of what I think has really been refined as what will happen. Of course, we've had a federal interest rate rise of another 0.25, which puts the Fed funds rate at the highest rate it's been since before '08. But it's still not really going to be a negative to the hotel industry. A lot of people are actually saying it's actually good that interest rates are going up because the amount of low-rate debt that has been put out there on the hotel industry is really coming to an end.
Right.
And we know that hotel real estate, at the end of the day, for some people can be a risky investment. We've seen it happen a few times where we've had declines in real estate and we've had loans being thrown into default as a result of those valuation declines. So because we rent rooms by a nightly basis, it does have significant risk to it. It's not a long-term lease in an office building where you're going to get paid either way. You do still have to put X rooms on Y sites every night to make them available, and it is highly fluctuating based upon demand. So I think that, the market probably feels like, maybe it isn't really going to be that bad. I still think, corporations feel like this hasn't been bad. The employment rate continues to decline. Corporate spending is still pretty good. And I think, the Fed funds rate going up. I think the stock market going up. I think people are pleasantly surprised with where we sit a month after the election, 5 weeks after the election, and a month prior to the inauguration. Now, that could all collapse tomorrow. You can't tell. But, to this point, there's a general surprise and delight, which we like.
Yeah, we absolutely do like surprises and delight. And my concern, though, is in January that we're going to see a precipitous drop in the stock market. Now, I'm not making any predictions because I don't want to be in that prognosticator category in this one. But I think historically we've seen after the joyful holiday season, January usually hits some roadblocks. So I think when it comes to the stock market, it's going to have to go down somewhat. Plus, man, so freaking high. How can we sustain these levels?
Let's consider how that might happen, Glenn. January is typically a down month, okay? And let's say it goes down 2%, okay, which would not be outrageous. We'd be right back to where we were pre-election, which I don't think anybody was all that upset about.
Okay. No, how could you be?
So we had this run-up, okay, through the end of the year that, yes, we might pull right back off of it prior to Inauguration Day, but from there uncertainty sits, okay, but that would be, I think a fairly reasonable conclusion. But, the hotel business has benefited from robust demand. We continue to see the robust demand. And as I have said on this podcast before, international arrivals are some of the things that are going to be subjected to external economic conditions. We've had, obviously, a change in currency valuation between the dollar and the British pound and the euro and some of the other currencies whereby it's made it expensive to come to the United States, and that's expensive at all aspects, okay? But I think also at the same time you have some uncertainty in travel in other regions. Glenn, in Europe, we still have some terrorist activity that is probably going to impinge a few things in that region, and they at this point don't really have it under control. And I think that offers some concern. Obviously, we haven't had a significant terrorist activity in the United States since the New York situation that occurred over the summertime, which we seemed to quell pretty fast. Could have gotten a lot worse. But it is the holiday season. It does raise those fears again.
Yep.
And, there'll be an awful lot of people traveling. But, gas is still $2.25 at my house, which is nice. That's lower than it's been. Oil is cheaper this year. Propane is cheaper. So I think, those indications going into the wintertime, I think, are good, both for families and for businesses. So we have some positive things on the horizon that are good for us right now, and I think we're hopeful that continues to translate more months going forward.
So let me ask you this, Bruce. You are, of course, the pipeline guru, talking about all of the new construction pipeline that's coming out there, the renovation pipeline that's happening, and you have a deep understanding of all the transactions that are happening within the market. Now, the Fed finally got their act together. We knew that they were going to wait until after the presidential election to raise those rates, and now we're talking either 2 or 3 potential rate hikes in 2017 from them. How do you feel that is going to affect the dynamic between existing properties that are selling, and that new construction pipeline?
Well, I think that the lending on new construction was definitely beginning to dry up. It was harder to get. It was harder to get at the lower rates. I talked to people that were borrowing money to build hotels at 5, 5.5, 6%, which is really very historically low. And in the last cycle, which ended in 2008, we were borrowing money at 7.5, 8, 8.5, and then 9 in some cases.
Yeah.
And it was still making the deals work out. What we've done in the hotel industry is we've built more efficient buildings. These select service hotels, these limited service hotels that require less staff that are putting the latest energy management tools into the hotel, whether it's wastewater or efficiency in the guest room to monitor the heat and the cooling, whether it's lighting, all kinds of different things that you can do. We have more hotels opening with LEED certification every day. All of that is great long-term stuff for the business, and I think that those more efficient buildings will continue to remain attractive. We have not had 2% supply growth in the hotel business since '08, and we do have a forecasted year of 2% supply growth next year and the following year of over 2%. But the long-term demand average is over 2%. So it's not that we have an overwhelming amount of supply that's going to slow new construction down. So I still feel like even if we had those 2, maybe even 3 point rises to make it a full point over the next 12 months, I still don't feel like that stops things. I still feel like new construction-wise we'll be in a good place. From a transaction standpoint, when you're capitalizing on net operating income and you're capitalizing EBITDA on a hotel, the values does change when the interest rates go up. However, we haven't seen a decline everywhere in the hotel's ability to make money. So generally, if the valuation of the hotel is, we're still seeing good operating performance, still seeing improving operating performance. If rates do go up, it takes that value down a little bit. But what it does is I think from an acquisition standpoint, owners need to see that the end of growth is near, okay, before they really say, okay, well, I'll take 2% less to do this transaction because I want out now.
Right.
I'm not going to do that big reno. I'm not into that investment. And they're always trying to time their exit so they get the maximum return they can, okay? And that's got to be on the near horizon. And I think certainly, you know, as we look to monitor and check what's available for sale in addition to what is selling, okay, it seems to me that the second half of 2016 has seen more properties come to market and come to market with mark-to-market kind of pricing, and that it will not be long-term before we see more transactions occur.
Right.
Additionally to that, you know, companies still have to grow, and I think with the couple of months that we've had here of improved valuations at some companies because their stock price has not gone down as some people have assessed it would. We've seen some companies make some acquisitions. I think we saw Wyndham make an acquisition. I think we saw a couple other hotel companies look to acquire some competitors, and I think we're going to keep seeing that, okay? And more mergers, more acquisitions, more portfolios, okay, as we go over the top of the valuation curve and we see a heavy transaction volume pickup, which I think we should expect for 2017.
Great. All that makes perfect sense. And if I wasn't hopped up on eggnog, I bet you I'd have a lot of things to ask you in regards to that. Just kidding. I too early to start drinking, and also I'm not much of an eggnog fan. Although every year I try to fool myself into believing that I will like that tasty beverage, but not tasty to me. So
okay, well, you could get tarnished by the eggnog latte at Starbucks, so just go buy the real stuff.
All right, I think maybe I will do that. So I don't want to burden anybody with too much more heavy thought as we are in this joyous holiday season right now. Before we wrap up here, Bruce, anything light and fun that you're thinking about maybe the holiday season?
Well, I think, you know, during this holiday season, it's important for everybody to realize that the world is not coming to an end, okay, that there are positive signs as to the new administration, both economically, both personally, both professionally, in that love the one you're with, as many people have said, in song or in dance, if you will. And remember that the older we get, the more we should reflect, the more we should be reminded of really what we have and the gifts that we have.
Yep, absolutely. And Speaking about gifts, if you want to give either of us a gift, hey, why not take the time and like the show on iTunes? Give us a 5-star ratings, make us feel good about ourselves. I could certainly use that over the holiday season. And, Bruce, I got an interview that I recorded yesterday that's going to be dropping on January 13th, I think, and that's with Hotel Impossible's Anthony Melchiori. And, being that right now it's that fun holiday season, I just wanted to plug something he's got coming on the Travel Channel on Monday, December 6th at 10 p.m. Check out Ice Hotel's Not Impossible. It's all going behind the scenes of how they build these things, what they're all about, and how interesting that whole phenomenon of this annual Ice Hotel ritual is. I know I'm going to be watching that particular program.
Sounds like fun, Glenn. As I say, keep your eye out on Lodging Econometrics on Twitter and on LinkedIn. We're always releasing new and fresh nuggets about hotel pipeline across the world, and at any time you want to reach me, you can go to the website, lodgingeconometrics.com, or BFORD@lodgingeconometrics.com. I'd love to be challenged by your real estate needs and questions during this holiday season. And again, Glenn, happiest holiday season to you and your family.
And Merry Kwanzaa to you, sir, and have a terrific holiday break. Can
you spell that for me, please?
Maybe before the eggnog.
Kwanzaa. Okay.
All right. So I want to thank everybody, or maybe Happy Festivus to all of you. I know that's become a very important holiday for a lot of us folks out there. Again, have a terrific holiday season. Enjoy. For me, I'm going to be taking off, going to see a couple of concerts, chilling out a little bit, and hopefully still making all these deadlines that I have to do every single day. I want to thank you, and we will be back right after this commercial break with a very interesting in-depth with the leading hospitality school in the world. And we'll hear how they go ahead and create all these amazing hotel industry entrepreneurs. We'll be right back. Thanks again.
Have a question for your host, Glenn? Tweet him now at Traveling Glenn. No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast. We'll be right back.
Hey everyone, thanks so much for listening to the No Vacancy podcast with me, Glenn Hausman. You're listening to this right now. That's right, right now. You're listening, but you're not the only one. Many others are too. So my question is, do you want to get noticed? Guess what? I can help you with that. Every single month, my content delivers more than 100,000 impressions. I know. I thought the same thing too. Now it's your time to get you or your product, service, or brand known by leveraging my network. I'll work with you to find creative solutions that are going to get your message to the ears and eyes that you need to attract. Just send me a note at glenn@rouse.media or find me on Twitter @travelingglenn. That's glenn@rouse.media, ROUSE.MEDIA. And while we're at it, Glenn has got 2 N's. Thanks for listening, and now back to more great content. One of the things that I really love is the idea of going to, hospitality school and getting a degree in that. And it's something I never really did. I went and I visited once when I was looking for colleges back in the late 1980s. I went to one, but for some reason it didn't really appeal to me at the time, but somehow I still wound up in the hospitality industry. But one of the things I love is really understanding what's going on in the world of hospitality schools. And that's why today I have Mr. Nicholas Graf, who's the Chief Academic Officer with La Roche International School of Hotel Management, who's here to share all about the school, what they're all about, and more importantly, to help me stop pronouncing French so horribly. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you so much for joining me. So I've heard of La Roche before. You're ranked by Hotel Hiring Managers as one of the top 3 hospitality management schools in the entire world. And I got to tell you, I love the fact that Europeans seem to really understand the quintessential art of hospitality. And it's something that I think more Americans can learn about. Why do you think there's a difference there between our American way of looking at hospitality and the European way?
Well, look, I think I've worked in the U.S. I've worked in at different universities in the U.S. and I think one of the difference really is about the whole concept of service,
right,
and the importance that service and people play in this business. So I think, to be honest, I think the American schools in general have produced extremely good graduates from a technical standpoint, from all of the different skills such as finance, marketing, etc., etc. But I think one of the things that European schools and maybe Swiss schools particularly have done well is to put people at the center and the concept of service. So I think that's the key difference.
Yeah, and I think that's so much more critical now. And, I'm somewhat myopically focused on the U.S. hotel industry, and we're really moving into a new era of hospitality. And that's why I wanted to speak with you today, Nicholas, because I find that European sensibility is really geared towards understanding the customer, to really providing for their needs in a much more selfless way, which I think really aligns with where we're going overall in the general hotel industry.
Right. No, I agree with you. I think the one of the things that's interesting is when you look back, years ago at the industry, and I think we in Switzerland, we pride ourselves of having invented hotels and the hotel business. And in fact, years ago, we were, it was essentially mom and pop hotels, run, where the husband and wife were running the whole show, and they were doing everything, from checking in guests to, going in their rooms, providing breakfast, et cetera, et cetera. So it was really about customer service. Then the industry got a lot more professional, and I'd say it's when we introduced the marketing concepts and the brand concept and so forth and so forth. So we had an extended period of time when the professionalization of hotels was the key to success, and that was true as for all of the hotel companies expanding abroad, et cetera, et cetera. And then I think today technology is enabling us, in a way, has enabled us, or as an industry, to put the customer back at the center of what matters. And so I think, yes, it's becoming increasingly important to be customer-centric, to be solution-oriented for the customer. And I think, in a way, it's kind of a swing of a pendulum. We were extremely customer-focused but relatively inefficient in the past. Then we've become a lot more efficient, but at the expense maybe of customer service. And now technology enables us to do both, to be efficient and customer-centric.
That's interesting, and I think that's why we're at this crossroads right now. Are we going to utilize technology to really empower guest experience, or is it going to wind up separating us from the guests? So you must be thinking about this issue a lot at Roches, and where do you come down on making sure that everyone's educated to not allow technology to take over at the expense of really serving that customer?
Well, I think it's going to be driven by the customer, number one, and I think we see that in not only hospitality but in different sectors, and just considering education as being a sector, we see that from our students. So we are increasingly at Les Roches, we're really increasingly utilizing technology, but not to improve only efficiency, but to improve learning. And it's demanded by the students, which in a way are they are our customers in a way. So they ask us to use technology not to teach more students online, but to actually provide each student with a more customized learning experience. I think. So in the hotel industry, I think it's essentially the same. It's the customers, they will go where companies are able to use technology in a way that provides them with, better customized service. And I think you see that in many hotels when now, you can book no longer just a room, but you can book, a room, a specific room.
The room,
okay,
right.
So in a way, we're using their technology, which, number one, any kind of online, distribution system or online platform is more efficient than a normal, phone operator. But on top of that, it enables us to actually empower the customer to choose things that they prefer. So in a way, it's going to be customer-driven, I think, and I think the industry will have no choice but to become again more customer-centric. And if not, then there will be other companies or startups that will do it.
Yes, absolutely. And that's the way. If you don't disrupt yourself, the disruptor is going to come in and disrupt you. And that's one of the issues that I try to talk a lot about when I'm put my educational hat on, either if I'm guest speaking in at a university, or if I'm on stage educating hoteliers, because we really are at that point now where we have to take serious stock of what we're doing, or else everything that's going on is going to rapidly change, and we're going to be left on the sidelines. But at La Roche, you're making sure that folks don't get left on the sidelines, that they're studying what is happening right now in the world of hospitality. I'm curious a little bit about the history of the school.
Well, yes. The school, I'm never sure I no longer know whether it's good to say that we were founded in 1954, or whether now it's viewed as being, okay, you're from the old guard, and you're outdated. But anyway, so we were founded in 1954, and originally founded as it was an international school for soon to be hotelier, I would say, relatively traditional. Historically, because that's what the industry needed, but really international from day one. Now, since then, of course, the school has grown and has become more, let's say, has developed according to the international standards of education. So essentially, we have bachelor degrees, we have MBAs, we have master degrees, and we're accredited by NEASC, which is the New England Association of Schools and Colleges from the U.S. So we are relatively similar to U.S. universities or hotel schools in many ways. Today, what we are really trying to do is we're essentially utilizing technology to empower students to take ownership of their learning. And what we are doing is we're creating different ecosystems of content, and the students have to learn from them. And obviously, the content that we are giving to students has been curated by the faculty, and we're trying really to make sure that our curriculum remains up to date. Although that's probably not possible.
Yeah, it's kind of like as soon as you finish a curriculum, it's already out of date because change is happening so rapidly.
Right, which is why we're allowing for a lot of flexibility in the curriculum. So we're changing courses every semester. So we have new courses every semester, and we're abandoning some courses every semester. Now we're doing that because our curriculums are relatively flexible with a lot of electives, relatively few core courses, and so we're able to update ourselves relatively quickly. That being said, I don't think we can always be 100% up to date, but we're trying to do that, and at the same time, we're maintaining a lot of what we call experiential learning, which is hands-on learning. Students experiment things that they've been taught. They experiment them, and they learn from mistakes. They learn from success, and then they experiment again, etc., etc. So we are doing that on, I would say, some of the historical craft of the industry,
right?
Which is one of the differentiation, I would say, of our school, where we have a lot of really practical courses. But again, the students they practice, they experiment, and then they learn from it. So and then they try to improve it.
Is this done in a classroom setting or in actual hotels around the world?
No. Well, it's done in different labs. So we have different labs. And now take a lab of people who are running a food and beverage operations. Then we have a lab for food and beverage, and the students actually come up with their own ideas of how things should be run. They're obviously mentored by faculty, and then they try it. They see how it goes. They get customer feedbacks. They get profitability feedbacks and things like this, and then they try to improve. So we have labs. We don't have any. We're not operating any hotel. Mm-hmm. We really are trying to put students in a simulated context, because if you put them in a real life, they do that during their internships. Mm-hmm. So all of our programs have internships. That's where they're working in real life. But on campus, they actually experiment things in a control. It's a controlled experiment, if you want, in a lab. And we have that for whatever is food and beverage, whether it's production or service, and we have that for whatever customer service activity you can think of that can exist in the hospitality industry.
Right.
In terms of campuses, I should have mentioned, we have 5 campuses around the world. So we have the main campus, which is in Switzerland. It's a ski resort place.
Sounds horrible. I hate to have to go there.
I know. It's terrible, and it's a beautiful place. It's sunny today. You have the mountains, the Alps. It's beautiful. We have another one. The second campus, largest campus, is in Spain, in Marbella, which then is a sun destination, I would say. Then we have a third campus in Shanghai, a fourth campus in Jordan, and our newest campus, which is in Chicago now.
Chicago? I didn't even know about that one.
Yes. We just opened it about 2 months ago.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you. No, it's a great, and Chicago is a vibrant city when you think about it. I mean, lots of energy there, lots of entrepreneurial spirit, and lots of new ideas. So
as a matter of fact, I was just in Chicago recently, and for those folks listening to the show, next week I'm going to be featuring Ron Swidler, one of the principals with the Gettys Group, based in Chicago. So I was there doing that interview, and I loved that city. Fortunately, I was there in September when it was gorgeous out, and not there over the cold winter months. I have a feeling in Switzerland, your winters are not as bad as they are in Chicago.
No, can you just repeat the last part of the question, because
Oh, nothing. I'm just joking around about weather and all of that kind of stuff. But okay, so I want to move on to next topic. I know you've had some graduates that have really reached some renown because they've become great entrepreneurs. Any great stories about that you could share with me?
Well, I think we have I would say more traditional stories with great success from alumni. We have Mr. Omar Kaduri, who's the president and CEO of Rotana Hotel Management Company. So he graduated in '86, and he climbed the ladders to be that in that position. So that's I would say an example of a relatively extremely successful though, but traditional success story.
Right.
We have others, Ronan Nissenbaum, who's the VP for operations, luxury hotels for Hilton Worldwide in the Americas. Again, climbed the ladders and extremely successful. And then we have some other, let's say, maybe less traditional successes. An example would be Dimple Lolwani, who's the CEO and founder of Social Belly. He graduated only 4 years ago, and he started up his business, and he's being fairly successful at the moment. I mean, Social Belly is the say Airbnb of food, and it's headquartered in London, and so that people are sharing empty seats at their table, and so he founded that business.
That's a really cool idea, and I think it plays a lot into some of the trends that we're seeing now in hospitality, where people want that authentic experience. They want to eat a meal with some of the locals, and this sounds like a great way to be able to do that.
Sure, absolutely, and the more I see our students, I mean, we have lots of students willing to start up their own businesses, and I think that's probably not only at Les Roches, but we have about a third of our students that actually started their business now, successfully or not. I mean, the entrepreneurial world is full of success and failures, but it tells you a lot about the attitude of the students today. And increasingly, what we see is that it's going to IDs to provide better experience, truly more authentic experience, easier solutions to different needs, etc. But at the moment, it's a big trend from within the students. I mean, we're not forcing them to do that; they simply want to do it.
And it seems like you are a hotbed for that hospitality entrepreneur. So, what are some of the characteristics that you're seeing that really makes for a good, strong entrepreneur in the hospitality universe?
Well, it's interesting because, again, I think there are different things. One of the things is, again, it's that being focused on customers, customer needs, and identifying things that are not totally doing the job at the moment, and trying to find other solutions to these. Let's say, customer services. So it's really about that customer-centric approach, number one. And number two, students willing to, or having an attitude of doing things. So a lot of our students are doers, in the sense that they don't, wait for a boss to tell them what to do. They just do things when they see it.
Right.
And I think it's an attitude. And so taking ownership of things and being willing to solve problems without necessarily being product orientated or product focused, but being customer centric.
So
I think these are the two things.
Can you actually teach people to think that way, or do they kind of have to come predisposed with a lot of those qualities before they even get to you?
Well, I think they need to have a minimum, let's say, type of attitude. They need to be not necessarily extrovert, but they need to be, like people. They need to like people. I think they need to have a certain level of empathy to a certain extent. That's one thing we cannot necessarily teach. We can reinforce, we can probably develop, but we cannot necessarily teach from scratch. Now, the other thing is for entrepreneurs or entrepreneurship in general, I don't think you can entirely teach it. There are different things you can teach. Some of the skills that they need to have. Some legal issues or finance things. How to raise funds, how to write a shareholder pact, or these kinds of things. We can teach some of it, but I think the rest has to be learned and developed by the students. What we're trying to do at Les Roches from a pedagogical approach is we're trying to simply coach and mentor students in their learning. For most of the classes, we're essentially not teaching them anything, and the professors are not, they're not the teachers who know everything. They are mentors, they are advisors, and they are coach, and they provide feedback, nice or bad feedback, but they provide feedback, and they guide the students in their learning. And I think that's that's the best you can do to develop that entrepreneurial mindset.
I find that's interesting, but I also think that you're equipping them to a new way of thinking and behaving. 'Cause for me, in my entire career, it's really been a struggle every step of the way to figure stuff out. So I may have some of the characteristics you talked about to be an entrepreneur or an innovator or something of that nature, but I didn't have all the stuff that I needed to know in order to put my mindset into action. So it seems like the right attitude and everything that you give the students sets the stage for them to believe that they could make something of themselves that they may not have thought of when they first walked into La Roche.
Right. And I think one of the great things about Les Roches, the campus, is on campus we have close to 100 nationalities, and we don't have one nationality that really dominates the other. And people are coming from all around the world.
Amazing.
It's 98% international student in Switzerland.
Wow.
It's over 60% in Spain. So that diversity. It's a diversity of culture, obviously, but it's also a diversity of experience and of ideas. So in a way, by being there, the students simply share and exchange and share ideas, discuss things with a lot of different cultures. And I think that really facilitates the process.
How does that cultural diversity play into these folks being able to operate as a hotelier in what's really becoming a global community in a lot of the major cities that your students will go to work in?
Well, I think it just makes them more at ease with others. And in a way, another way of looking at it, a way that I like particularly, is saying that they're globally fluent, but not necessarily because they've traveled the world, but because they're able to cope with the complexity that comes with the global world in which we live today. So having to deal with a lot of different people, a lot of different cultures, having to be increasingly able to connect the dots between what's happening in one place with what's happening in another place. I think that it really enables them to be, to become that globally fluent kind of globally fluent citizen, I would say.
Yeah. And how important do you think that is for the future? I mean, I think a lot of the typical American hoteliers are focused just on people that they're familiar with being with. And now that the world is opening up, and, I could go into my my speech about the Chinese middle class traveling around the world and all of that kind of stuff. But how do you think we need to really think about hospitality from individuals coming from around the world?
Well, I think it's critical. I mean, it's critical for many things. It's critical simply because of the tourism flows. So yes, there will be more tourists flying from different, source markets, and so hoteliers in the U.S. or anywhere will have to be able to deal with different expectations, different ways or behaviors, etc., etc. So just for that, due to tourism flows, it's absolutely critical. But I think it's also critical because I think that 10 years ago, I could give you a very fairly simple definition of what the hotel industry was about. I think today I am not able to give you any clear definition of what the sector is all about because it's becoming increasingly complex. So right. I think so tourism flow is one reason why it's critical, but the other one is because traditional hotelier needs to they need to push the boundaries of what they think they know, and they need to acknowledge that now we have different sorts of accommodations, or we have different sorts of hotels, we have different sorts of places where people book and where they stay. So they need to be able to be a bit more agile mentally, and just for that, I think it's very important to have a mind that is prepared for other cultures, that is prepared for that kind of a diversity.
Right. I agree. But, it's funny. When I think of a school such as Roches and that European attitude, I always feel like your graduates would be, wearing a suit and being general manager of a Four Seasons hotel, for example, right? So it's nice to see that you're training these people to be as comfortable in all different sorts of environments as well, which I'm sure is always been the history of the hotel, but my preconceived notions are just coming in on that one.
Yeah, well, look, we have a very fairly strict dress code, so that's true. Our students and everybody on campus, on all of the campuses, have to wear a suit and ties. We still keep that because there are different reasons for it. It's simply because they may never have to do it again in their professional life. That's number one. So maybe they will have to do it on one occasion, and at least they will know how to wear it.
Right.
And there are other reasons for that. Just simply the atmosphere and the feeling you have on campus when you have all of these kids dressed in suits and ties is very different than the atmosphere you have from a normal university, I would say.
It's true because, at my university, back when I was there in the 1980s, we all wore jeans and ratty T-shirts. And I think it's a different approach because I don't think you're as apt to learn about the content if you're not really dressed in that kind of way.
No, I agree, and it simply gives them a real taste of what is rigor when rigor is needed. They just somehow train them on to understand what rules are and sometimes how to break them if needed, because they also know how to do that. I'm telling you.
What, a college student? I don't know about that.
But no, I think it's part of the entire. Concepts, it creates a certain atmosphere, it creates a certain context. And then within that context, there are lots of other things you can do. So just to give you an example, we still have students, graduates who, go on the general manager track. We have a number of them. And that's all fine. But we also have other students that are going for, entrepreneurial ventures, others that are more into some more, working as an associate in some entrepreneurial, innovative startups and things like this. So we have all of these students. But one of the things that's great is last weekend we had students, a fully organized summit by students. So it was fully organized by students. It's called the Future Hospitality Summit. And the students created, so they organized a competition for other college students. So they invited other college students to pitch innovative ideas to different industry people and some leaders from the Valley in the U.S. So they invited people from Silicon Valley. And so they did all of that, yet with their suit and tie. So I think the suit and tie doesn't prevent them from having these kinds of future-oriented ideas, from looking at innovation entrepreneurship. But when it comes to doing things, they're extremely professional. So they organized the event in such a professional way. I've never seen that even from professional event organizers, to be honest with you.
So
they have the professional behavior, which is in part linked to the dress code and all of the rigor and discipline, but they also have that entrepreneurial mindset where they do their own things and they do it on topics they like.
Right. So any particular innovations then that you're seeing, either that the students presented or that you're seeing out there being practiced in the real world that strike you as really interesting and you need to focus on?
Well, it's a tough question because it's going so quickly that whatever I can think of today is probably already working or has been challenged and is out of business. But I think what strikes me really and excites me is that we're really looking at people's problems, and we're no longer treating customers as numbers or as I give you practical examples. The other day I was organizing a trip for myself, a business trip, and I had downloaded the application called WePolo, which has been around for a little while, but basically it's an app that collects through all of your emails and through all of your devices, collects all of the trip-related data that you need during the trip. So essentially, it collects all of your bookings, all of the confirmations, all of the anything that you need during the trip, and it's all in one place. And so it's an easy solution to retrieve any kind of information you need during the trip, but also to actually do your expense report when you come back. Ooh. Because then you can click one thing and you have your expense report done, which I think is fabulous, personally. So just all of these ideas that are simply making our lives easier, whether on business or not, it's just making life easier. So I had to just do one click to get my expense report done.
I like that, and that's about all I think I can handle. I've still got some expense reports from the last couple of months I need to get to. I keep saying I'm going to get to them, but I don't. If I only had that one-click option, it would be great. I love it. Smart idea. Wish I thought of it.
Yes. Again, the last sentence was off.
That's all right. That's what happens when you're speaking from half a world away. You don't need to hear my silly little banter anyway, Nicholas. So, wrapping up here, if folks are interested in learning more about La Roche, how can they find you? How can they learn about the school?
Well, different ways. The easiest one is you go online and you type in lesroches.edu. So it's LESROCHES.edu. That's the easiest way to find us. Then we're on all of the social medias as well, and we organize on a regular basis different open days on the different campuses. So there will be one soon in Chicago, and you can also attend some of our workshops that we organize. It's called job workshops, where we deliver workshops not only about us, Les Roches, but about jobs, new types of jobs that are available for young graduates in this industry.
Are you ever too old to go back to a hotel school? Because I know a lot of professionals out there would probably love to improve their education around this realm, even if they are already in the workplace.
Right. Well, we have different for professionals. We have different solutions. We have, of course, MBAs for those who want to speed up their careers, and we have a range of executive education programs, from customized programs for companies, or we have open enrollment programs that can lead you to an executive MBA. It's very flexible. It's customized. It's a competency-based curriculum, so for professionals, they can take a week there, another week there. They can take it over 12 months, 18 months, or 24 months. So we have lots of different solutions.
Super. I love it. Fantastic. I hope to one day get out there to meet you in person in Switzerland. It's a dream of mine to get over to that part of the world. I've seen your mountains, but from the wrong side, and I've never actually had a chance to get there.
Well, it will be our pleasure, and thank you very much.
For sure, and I want to thank all of you for listening, and for me and Nicholas Graff, I want to say thanks so much, and stay tuned for No Vacancy next week, and I will be back, that is, unless I decide to run away to hotel school in Switzerland. Thanks for listening, guys, and have a great week.
Thanks so much for listening to No Vacancy, the hospitality industry's #1 podcast, with your host, Glenn Hausman, online at rouse.media, on Twitter at Traveling Glenn, and on Facebook.com/Glenn.Hausman. We'll catch you next time.